I trust everyone's GDC is treating them wonderfully. I hope you took some time off work this week to actually digest all the stuff you're learning. So you're here for finding character voice with your voice. And lucky you, this talk is virtual. Back when I planned on doing it in person, there was going to be some audience participation. So yeah, you dodged a bullet. Anyway, if people still hashtag, you can use the hashtag vocal writing. All right, so what are we learning today? Well, there's only one point I'm really here to make, and that's that adding vocal performance in the writer's room can add depth to your characters, whether they're voiced or not. I mean, just look at Gordon Freeman here. He doesn't have a lot to say vocally, but he says things with his face. At least that's how I interpret it. So why are you even listening to me? Well, my name is Cyrus Nemati, and at one point here at GDC not too long ago, I was probably begging you for voice acting jobs. Some of you said yes, and so I've had a lot of fun doing voice acting for games. You can see some of the titles I've been in. You may have heard me in Hades last year. It was, yeah, that was a good game. It was a good game. I won't do the voices now, but perhaps I can be convinced. I've since transitioned into writing full-time because there is such a thing as a guaranteed full-time writer. The hustle is tough as a voice actor, so please hug your voice actors. They work hard. I'm a lead writer for June's Journey and Tropicats at Wooga, where we develop narratively driven mobile games. It's done pretty well for us as it happens because a good story and good characters, surprisingly, well, not surprisingly at all, keep the audience coming. So most of us are here to make characters. It's kind of daunting, isn't it? Creating a fully fleshed out, believable, sentient being from absolutely nothing but our own imaginations. That's intense. It sounds really impressive when I put it like that. So how do we do it? Well, there are a few basic necessities to understanding a character. You can get the gist from a description, some keywords, and imagery. This is a character from Tropicats. We've got some basic descriptors, a minor bit of backstory, and the character art that we settled on. From there, we can get a start on writing dialogue from this character's perspective, but this isn't a lot of information. There is so much about this cat that we don't know. We want to give our characters depth, but how can we possibly create something with a real personality and history without knowing their life story or lore, for lack of a better word? And you may ask yourself, does my character just need more lore? Well, no. Lore is not the only solution to giving your character a strong background. The reason your character doesn't necessarily need more lore is that you will never, ever, ever be able to turn them into a complete three-dimensional character with all the memories and history of a sentient being without living out their entire lifetime. You couldn't even write the full lore for a baby because its life is going on at the same rate as yours. You can try, but I don't know how much fun you're going to have or how much fun your audience will have. So let's just not write for babies. Anyway, this is a screenshot from Batman Arkham City with a bio for one of Batman's most timely foes, Calendar Man. We will never know enough about Calendar Man, though the masses may beg for more of him. Now, we could get together and give him loads and loads of backstory, and it might please a few hardcore Calendar Man fans. Raise your hands if you're in that group. But very few people are actually going to dig into that lore. You might find it important, and maybe it is. Maybe it's vital information for this character's backstory, but how does your audience know that? You're just telling them facts. Facts, in this case, about Calendar Man. I mean, the guy based his identity upon calendars. Is lore going to do much for this poor lost soul? So you can convey lore without telling. Lore provides explicit characterization, but the often easier and more rewarding route is through implicit characterization. So what is implicit characterization, you ask? Well, it's basically any context that we can pick up without being explicitly told. We can get implicit characterization most clearly through visuals. Through character art, we can pick up an incredible amount of information. This is a character from Wooga's hit game June's Journey. Without reading a line of text, you can tell me probably a good amount about this character. Without seeing her character brief, you can tell me about her general attitude, her social class, her age, where she might be from, and how her moods manifest themselves. This is all right here on the page, in the form of how she dresses, the expressions on her face, her general style, and her body positioning. But we can learn similar things from voices, and they can help us with our dialogue, just like visuals. But my dialogue is already pretty good, you say. Well, how do you know that your dialogue is good? Have you heard it out of your character's mouth? I came across this tweet a while ago by Mike Bethel of Thomas Was Alone fame, and I had to save it. It resonated with me. He wrote, "My writing gets 10 times better once I've settled on my dream casting for the character I'm working on." It's a good tweet. It's actually a really good point, too. Mentally assembling a cast of actors who could play your character is already providing characterization. Imagine you're struggling with a character on making their dialogue sound consistent and iconic, and you realize, Sylvester Stallone kind of sounds like this, and the dialogue starts to flow naturally. Well, at least as naturally as Sylvester Stallone's dialogue does, because you know what he sounds like. That's the point. A character is much easier to solidify when you know how they sound. Let's talk about Super Mario. You look at him now, and you know what he sounds like, but it wasn't always this way. Mario Brothers was Mario's first self-titled game, but back in 1983, he didn't look anything like the Mario we're familiar with. Only with the release of Super Mario Bros. 2 in 1988 did we start to get closer to the idea of Mario that we have today, with the big eyes, the bulbous nose, and the squat figure that he's had ever since. And that was the extent of our understanding of Mario's character, which continued with 1988's Super Mario Bros. 3 and 1990's Super Mario World. Now, I want you to erase everything you know about Mario and just focus on these images and the explicit lore that we knew at the time. He's a plumber, he's Italian, he jumps around a lot, he uses pipes. So what does this guy sound like based on purely what we see? Hey, I'm Mario. Hey, I'm flying. I'm riding on a dinosaur. I don't know, something like that. This visual was all that we knew about Mario, unless you watched the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, which is maybe where I'm getting this kind of voice from. But that's all we knew at the time, and that is indeed all we knew about Mario until 1996. When Mario 64 came out, it shocked the industry. Not only was Mario in 3D for the first time, with a huge array of animations, but he actually spoke. And that gave him instant characterization that not even an army of writers could provide. Let's listen.
Mamma mia! Okie dokie. Thank you so much for playing my game. It's me, Mario. Yeah. Here we go.
Stop playing this.
Let's go. Yeah.
Okay, all right, you get the point. Sorry, whoops. Let me go back. I got a little ahead of myself. Mario, quiet down. Okay. This guy is ridiculous. What is that? The guy who defeated a fire-breathing dinosaur sounds like this? Well, he does, because he does, and suddenly we know an incredible amount about Super Mario's character. He's a maniac. He is absolutely thrilled just to be alive, whooping with every jump. He's never known true sadness, only surprise or temporary dismay, thanks to all the lives he's got, as he falls down a pit, screaming, "Wah!" And
thank you so much for playing my game.
Quiet down. We're not here for you anymore. Okay, so there's not a serious bone in Mario's body, and it has been a part of his characterization ever since we heard his voice. Even when Mario games are more narratively driven, such as in the Mario and Luigi series, Mario still expresses himself in the same way. We've picked up an incredible amount of information just by hearing him speak. And you may say, I don't need that. I'm not making Mario. Well, why aren't you? Mario is as iconic a character as video games have ever made, and his voice is part of what makes him iconic. Here's another extreme example of how performance can positively affect your game. This is one of the most iconic characters to come out of a video game in the last decade. And you probably have no clue who he is. Well, how about now? Do you recognize him? Yeah, that's the same guy. Vaas from Far Cry 3 was originally your typical big ol' angry brute of a character, but when Michael Mando simply auditioned for the role, the character changed dramatically. The depth that the actor provided gave Vaas nuance that he didn't have, a reason for his rage that not only improved the character, but altered the identity for the entire game. If you haven't played it, minor spoiler, Vaas isn't even the main villain, but look who's on the cover art. He became the identity of the game through a strong, unsettling, nuanced performance that changed the writing for the character. And then Far Cry 4 came out, with another charismatic, memorable villain driving the action. And it happened again in Far Cry 5. And it will happen once more, well, probably not once more, in Far Cry 6. So it wasn't only one game, but an entire franchise that was uplifted by a performance that changed the way a studio viewed character building. Michael Mando, my man, I really hope you're getting royalties, cause damn. But this is all big budget craziness, you say. My game doesn't even have voiced characters, so what good is all this going to do me? Well, surprise, you don't even need to have voiced characters for performance to make a big difference. At Wooga, we do mobile games, and as many of you know, the number of people playing mobile games with sound on is really, really low. Whether sound is worth having on during a typical mobile game is another GDC talk that I'm not qualified to give, but the fact remains that the day players will routinely hear the sound of their mobile games is still quite far away. But we still weave performance into our process at Wooga on June's Journey. This is our standard simplified process. Of course, we plot our overarching scenes, we write our story, we test our dialogue, and we implement it. But the testing is where we can get a lot of hints about characters and have some fun. This is my team. They're going to do a typical scene reading. Don't worry, it's short. Yeah, let's just play it.
This cane is pure ivory straight from the Indian colonies. Do you know how I earned it, little missy?
No, sir.
Let me let you in on a little secret, girl. It's hard work you'll never understand. But I'm sure we can arrange something. Take a look at the schedule. I've got some shits that need covering. I've got some shifts that need covering. Let's bump you up to 20 hours a day.
I can't. I need rest. I already work all day. I'm taking care of my grandmother.
Oh, you poor thing. I'll make you a deal then. I can give you all the rest you need. I can just cross off all your shifts, and you can put up those filthy little feet.
Sir,
Okay, you get the point.
I need this.
That's not that great. When you're just reading, you get maybe flubs in your dialogue. You may have heard that there was a little bit of a typo that was corrected, but that's kind of all we get. But you don't need to have actors in the writer's room to be able to put forth a performance. I want to start with a writer's biggest strength, and that is empathy. Think about how your character feels on a very basic level, line by line. How would they react to the situation that they're facing? Don't be afraid to get physical. I'm not saying punch your colleagues in the face if that's what your character is doing, but go ahead and punch the air if it helps. Slam the table. Actually laugh, because this physicality gets put into character. Slow down. This isn't a script reading anymore. The objective isn't to get it over with. Give your characters the same respect you give them in dialogue writing. Finally, just have fun. You are being paid, hopefully, to do creative things for a living. Life is good. This is a justified part of the process, so don't feel bad about enjoying it. I want to play that same clip again, and this time, turn on a little bit of character. And whenever you're ready.
The top of this cane is pure ivory straight from the Indian colonies. Do you know how I earned it, little missy?
No, sir.
let me let you in on a little secret, girl. It's hard work you never understand. But I'm sure we can arrange something. Take a look at the schedule. I've got some shifts that need covering. Let's bump you up to, 20 hours a day?
I can't. I need rest. I already work all day, then taking care of my grandmother.
Oh, you poor thing. I'll make you a deal then. I can give you all the rest you need. I'll just cross off all your shifts and you can put those filthy little feet up.
Sir, I need those hours. How will I pay the rent?
That's your problem, Missy. Now get out. There's nothing I can't stand more than a beggar.
No.
All right. So we got a few benefits out of this more characterful meeting, out of this more characterful run-through of our dialogue. First, we are hearing the lines as if a human delivered them, which is always a good start. It helps us avoid unnatural dialogue. We've gotten a tonal check on our work. Does a line sound angry enough? Does the character feel insulted, hurt, hangry? Well, we know now. Third, we have a possible hint at our character's background. You heard some accents. That we can use for characterization. We might also pick up an appropriate age. Maybe there's a little grit in their voice that speaks to a troubled childhood or a drinking problem, or maybe they smoke. Who knows? Maybe they sound like Gilbert Gottfried with all of the challenges that entails. Fourth, through this characterization, we have some idea about how our characters express themselves. We can almost see in our mind's eye how they'll move when they speak. If you've ever seen old clips of Disney animators, they'd keep a mirror at their desks so that they could act out scenes to ensure that characters were making the right faces. What this all amounts to is that vocal performance gives character depth at a very slight cost of putting ourselves out there and getting into character. As a result of characterful readings, we regularly change the direction of our characters, especially early on in the writing process. They grow in complexity and personality and end up with more depth than they would in a vacuum. If you've been here at GDC before, you've probably met Sarah Elmale. She's been an incredible champion for collaboration between voice actors and game developers. And I think she's got a fantastic example of how performance changed character for the better in Gears 5.
Was getting worried. You didn't report back.
Radio died, and these guys pulled me out of a jam. Cavalry's here! I was brought in to play Lizzie Carmine in Gears 5. She started very tough, and she was always meant to be very tough, very durable and kind of intimidating and cool. And as I was recording her for the single player, she got a bit wilder. She kind of had more gusto. The writers took that and ran with it. And it took on this feedback loop feeling of affirmation as I was wild in these sessions, and they added to her wildness and made her funnier. And I was like, yes. And so it was this feeling like you're building off of each other and finding a truer, purer, more instinctive, more elevated version of this character that just takes on a life of its own.
One of the things I really like about Sarah's approach is that it is truly collaborative. Writers are fueled by her perspective and her understanding of character from a vocal performance perspective, and that bond creates a better end product. Oops, okay, there we go. So I want to talk a little bit more about that bonding aspect. Most of us can recognize when writing is uninspired or when it's done just to fulfill some sort of narrative checkbox. If your studio acts as though writing is just the thing one must do to push the player along, it is up to you to bring that enthusiasm for writing, and the best way to do that is really to have fun with it. This is my team again, this time reading a scene where a parrot holds the answer to a mystery.
That's my money! What gives you the right to it? Lo quai di giocare, Timothy. You're French bird, right?
No, you are French. This is correct. Yeah.
It was just it through me. That's my money! What gives you the right to it? Lo quai di giocare, Timothy. Get your filthy hands off me!
Let's see if we can find the little guy something to eat.
Okay, you get it. This is just us having a good time. But that good time helps us bond as a team, which is certainly a good thing to have in your writer's room. The comfort that comes with a strong bond allows you to explore and find a character's unique voice. And voice makes your characters unique. My holy grail for written dialogue is for the reader to know exactly who is speaking without a name tag. Kreia from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 is one of my favorite written characters in all of video games. Her dialogue is impressive and nuanced, and most importantly, there's no line that she speaks that could be said by any other character in the game. She's expertly voiced by Sarah Kestelman, whom you will know from absolutely nothing, unless you're an avid fan of the Royal National Theatre and the Royal Shakespeare Company. And although I can't confirm that her performance influenced the writing, it's hard to imagine it didn't. Let's hear a clip.
You seem to.
What? What are you doing? Get out of my head!
Stop struggling. Let me follow the current. Deeper to its source.
Stop! Stop! Ah!
Ah, with the fear is mingled guilt. It squirms in you like a worm. And the why? Ah, and there is its heart. You surprise me. I could not feel it before. Your feelings are a powerful shield indeed. Do not.
Whew. Oh man, she is so good. That character just holds so much weight. She is deliberate, careful even, despite the very obvious power that she holds. And this we can tell from her voice, and it's got to influence our writing. One of the things that we pick up certainly from this performance is that we probably can't write this particular character a fart joke. Now, you may hear this and think, oh dang, I can't summon up this kind of performance. Yeah, I hear you. Admittedly, I'm not sure I can, although I definitely like to make an attempt, and yes, I am open for voiceover work. But still, I recommend that you still give it a try. But if you're saying, no, I want Hollywood quality or nothing, I've actually got some really interesting news for you. If you plan on hiring union actors, you can make use of the Halp Network's SWAT team. I was kindly pointed out to the existence of SWAT by the immensely talented and friendly Sissy Jones, who you see here. You probably know her from Firewatch. With SWAT, you can get skilled professional union actors to do a couple of table reads of pre-production material at a grand cost of nothing, because you won't be recording those sessions. But this is an opportunity to get the chance to help your characters become fully realized much earlier in the writing process, which I think is worth a lot more than $0. And your product owners probably do too. So what's the point? Use your voice, perform, have fun. There is absolutely no reason not to do this in your writers' rooms. It costs you nothing, and the benefits are massive. Even if you're the only writer on your team, perform your dialogue. Grab somebody from marketing, grab somebody from facilities, whatever. Like, just get those voices out there. They will help you. And if you are that uncomfortable, hire a voice actor. Consider it part of your pre-production process. It's way cheaper than 1,000,000 pages full of lore and can reveal depth to your character that you wouldn't expect. So, thank you for listening. I hope you had a little fun and came away with some renewed excitement for your writers' rooms. If you'd like to get more insights into writing and vocal performance, I strongly recommend you check out Greg Cassavan and Darren Korb's talk, Breathing Life into Greek Myth, the Dialogue of Hades. I swear I'm not biased, man.